The Man in the Yellow Raincoat. This story was shared by a woman who, to this day, is haunted by what happened to her when she was a teenager. She was living in a quiet, suburban neighborhood where nothing much ever happened. It was one of those places where people felt safe enough to leave their doors unlocked at night. One summer evening, she was home alone. Her parents had gone out for dinner, and she was left with strict instructions to lock up before she went to bed. After a few hours of watching TV, she felt tired and decided to head upstairs. Just as she was about to turn off the lights, she heard a noise outside, a light tapping on the front door. Thinking it might be her parents who had forgotten their keys. She approached the door and looked through the peephole. Instead of seeing her parents, she saw a man standing there. He was wearing a yellow raincoat, even though it hadn't rained that day. He had his head down, and she couldn't see his face clearly. A chill ran down her spine, but she didn't want to seem paranoid, so she called out, asking who it was. The man didn't respond. He just stood there, unmoving. Something about the way he was standing, so still and silent, made her uneasy. She didn't open the door, but instead backed away slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, the man lifted his head, revealing a wide, unnatural grin that stretched across his face. His eyes were wild, filled with something that could only be described as madness. He raised one hand and started tapping on the door again, this time more forcefully. Panicking, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911. As she frantically explained the situation to the dispatcher, the tapping turned into loud banging. The man was trying to force his way in. She locked herself in the bathroom, praying for the police to arrive quickly. Minutes felt like hours as she listened to the man pounding on the door, shouting incoherent words. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the noise stopped. The silence was deafening. She held her breath, too terrified to move. When the police finally arrived, they found the front door scratched and dented, but the man was gone. They searched the area but found no trace of him. The only clue was a single wet footprint on the doormat, despite the dry weather. She moved out of that house not long after. Years later, she still wonders who the man in the yellow raincoat was and what he would have done if she had opened the door that night. But the thing that haunts her the most is the look in his eyes, the look of someone who had been watching her for a long time. Even after all these years, she still can't forget that eerie grin. Sometimes she wonders if he ever stopped watching her or if he's still out there waiting for another opportunity.